4 days later. Monday night, November the 28th. Upon returning from our short trip, Suoh and I were immediately deprived of the vacation we were promised. New developments in the upcoming Adder infiltration, not to mention the scheming of our former co-workers, left Karasu and my father on edge. They both pointed out that Suoh wasn't adequately trained for his role in the plan, which was basically just to pilfer documents, and thus decreed that we'd need to change our training routine. So, from today onward, we are no longer sparring or training to kill. We are focusing on agility. Pathetic. Utterly pathetic. Your best time of the day is still double that of Misa's, and hers is nothing to be proud of. From the moment we arrived for training today, Suoh and I have been running obstacle courses and adapting to low light situations. It's nothing that I haven't done before. As long as your body and mind are both fast and flexible, there's no great challenge to this. Unless, of course, the person training you has unrealistic expectations. How rude. I may not be breaking any of my old records, but I'm still doing pretty well for my first day of agility training this year. Give me a break. You should be amazed that I'm still standing around after all that. The only thing I'm amazed by is your ability to make excuses. If you want to call yourself my student, you're going to have to do much better than that. True to my father's complaints, Suoh wasn't doing well. While his reflexes were nothing to laugh at, he didn't possess the same flexibility or speed that I did. The only reason Suoh even made it to the finish line was because of his stamina and willpower, both of which I envied. We'll pick this back up tomorrow morning. The course will have changed, so don't grow complacent. Letting us off with surprisingly little criticism, my father headed back down towards the obstacle course. I thought today would never end. It wasn't as physically tiring as our regular training, but it's hard to concentrate when you're constantly avoiding random traps. Maybe for you, newbie. Aw, she called you a noob. Personally, I find agility training much easier than combat training. Oh, don't you start. Just because your time was a little better than mine, that doesn't mean it'll stay that way. I bridged the gap between us in combat training, didn't I? He's got me there. I may have more experience, but I can't match Suoh's strength or stamina. I'd still win in a real fight, of course, no question about it. But when we're just sparring, not actually trying to kill one another, Suoh has the advantage. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. That's actually a weird thought, you know? That if your goal is to kill a person, Misa has the advantage. If your goal is just training, sparring, getting better, then Suoh has the advantage. Because with killing, your goal is to just, find one weak spot, one weak moment of your opponent, and then you strike. You strike to kill. But seeing as she can't even do that with, during the training sessions, Misa is kind of at a big disadvantage, yeah. For the time being, let's go grab some dinner. We can worry about training tomorrow. That's the best idea I've heard all day. Father's been working as hard since we got here, and I didn't wolf down breakfast. Or if I didn't wolf down breakfast, I wouldn't have a single thing in my stomach. In that case, let's... you're still here. I was afraid you might have already left. So close. What's up, boss? Oh, please. Boss is so formal. Just call me Papa. What's up, Karasu? Good enough, I guess. Anyway, I was hoping to speak to you too whilst I worked. Would you care to join me in my office? Trying my best not to think about dinner, Suoh and I followed Karasu back into his office. Now then, where do I begin? I suppose we just start with your most recent assignments. So it's a mission debrief, is it? Suoh already told my father everything over the phone, then explained again with Karasu present after we returned, so I don't know what Karasu is hoping to get out of us. You mean our search for Violet and Vincent? I already told you about what happened there. Yes, I know. You told me all about Leon's scheme, their fake coordinates and so on. But what I'm interested in is what you didn't tell me. Karasu smirked as he spoke, hinting that he knew something he wasn't telling us. Or so most people would assume. In reality, this was a sign that Karasu was in a playful mood, and would no doubt begin teasing Suoh and I any second now. Hey, I'm not keeping any secrets from you. I really did tell you everything. Ah, you're falling right into his trap. Don't play along. You'll only encourage him. And I believe you. I'm sure you did tell me everything pertinent to your assignments. What you didn't tell me about were the nights you two spent together. Uh-oh. I averted my gaze as Karasu's words brought to mind what I almost did. Suoh was none the wiser, and it wasn't like I could ever tell anyone about what happened, so there was no way Karasu could actually know what had happened. Nonetheless, just thinking about that night made my face heat up, and I was sure Karasu would seize upon such a reaction. Whatever you're imagining, just stop. Nothing happened, okay? Oh? Is that so? What do you think, Misa? Is it true that nothing happened? He seems to really hint that he does know, but I feel like he's just pretending and trying to prod for information, trying to evoke a reaction out of either Suoh or Misa, and he knows Misa is kind of the weak link out of the two of us when it comes to trying to prod in this particular subject, because Misa is always very quick to blush and act shy when they're talking about this subject. Karasu turned his gaze away from Suoh and towards me. He smirked while adding emphasis to his question, prompting me to confess to an incident I could never, ever tell anyone about. I nodded desperately, blushing like crazy as wicked thoughts hounded me. The more I tried not to think about what happened, the worse it became, and I could only imagine how red my face was. Ha 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 ha. If you say so. Just know that I support the two of you fully, so if you need me to keep Sai occupied while you two elope, give it a rest, would you? If you're trying to keep us in high spirits, don't bother. Misa and I are doing perfectly fine. Before I could either succumb to the pressure or die of embarrassment, Suoh stopped Karasu in his tracks. He cut straight through Karasu's playful banter and exposed Karasu's true intention, which I was too distracted to see. You aren't the only ones who need cheering up sometimes, you know? It's actually kind of funny that Karasu is also... It's not just that he's doing this to cheer up Suoh and Misa, but Karasu himself actually gets cheered up from this as well. The revised date of the break-in is just around the corner. Soon enough, the two of you will be facing the threat of death very seriously. And along with Sai, you three are the only ones I have left. My other children have all either been killed or betrayed me. So forgive me if I need a little hand-holding right now, okay? Any embarrassment or amusement I felt faded away in an instant. The solemn tone and mournful words Karasu spoke reminded me of the harsh reality we were to face soon, which I had been unconsciously avoiding. Corporate espionage, especially involving a group as large and powerful as Adder, was unbelievably dangerous. It was so far above our usual work that I couldn't even begin to explain the potential ramifications. But rather than devote myself to training for such perilous mission, I had been indulging in Suoh's company, high on friendship and filled with juvenile thoughts of romance. I underestimated our opponent and allowed my own weakness to get the better of me. I hate to admit it, but Karasu is right. Death is a very real possibility here, as is incarceration. All it would take is an anonymous tip from Leon or Kane, a bug in the software we'll be using, or even a guard deciding to do an extra round. One slip-up, and we'd all be... Jeez, would you quit worrying already? Misa and I are going to be just fine. The same as always. Right, Misa? Mid-thought, I was interrupted by Suoh's prompts. He turned towards me and smiled, offering reassurance we all needed, yet didn't believe for a second. I see. Even if Sai keeps telling me that, it's reassuring to hear it from someone who is a little less prideful. Alright, I'll choose to believe your words. Just promise me one thing. Of course. Anything you want, boss. What is it? Be careful, don't fail? Something along those lines? No. At this point, all of that should be a given. Rather, I want you to watch over Sai. Huh? There were many things I was prepared to hear from Karasu at that moment. Last-minute advice about outer security, a joke about my father, a warning about Kane and Leon, or even just reaffirmation of our goal. But among the innumerable possibilities floating around in my mind, asking us to keep watch over my father was not one of them. Us? Watch over him? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Ordinarily, that would indeed be the case. At the moment, however, between you and him, I'd say you're the one being more level-headed. Sai has more at stake here than any of us. He'll do whatever he has to in order to succeed. I'm worried that in doing so, he might forget why he so desperately wants to succeed. Despite his usual inability to read the thoughts of my father and I, this time around, Karasu was surprisingly close. Rather than say he was obsessed or desperate to succeed, I felt it would be more appropriate to say that for once, my father was focused. As a professional killer and a leader of like-minded individuals, my father dealt with unsavory characters and situations on a daily basis. Whether it was back in Japan during his time as a Yakuza, or even now as the second in command of a small criminal empire, he was always tasked with serious, if not dangerous work. Over time, however, he's grown accustomed to his life. He doesn't flinch in the face of danger, nor does he worry needlessly about acts he's committed literally thousands of times before. So for my father to worry like this, for him to show even a sliver of desperation, that's just proof that he's taking this operation seriously. So, will you do it? I understand that you already have a lot on your plate, and this will be no walk in the park for all of you. Even knowing that, will you? My answer was obvious. Without Karasu even asking, I would protect my father, and even when he needed me to, no matter what. In return, I knew my father would do the same for me. If I ever found myself outmatched or in a dire situation, I knew I could count on him to rescue me. As for Suoh, however, well, of course, I can't let my future father-in-law die now, can I? Huh? Shattering the tense atmosphere without hesitation, Suoh smiled as he made a bold proclamation which nobody present had been expecting. My jaw dropped as I processed Suoh's statement. I had been taken totally by surprise, and not at all ready for the sudden shift in mood. A few seconds of silence passed by, as Karasu and I stared at Suoh, unsure of how to respond to such a claim. It was a joke, guys! But once my sense returned to me, and I realized that he was joking, our response was simple to predict. Honestly, That was totally uncalled for, completely inappropriate for a serious situation like this. I expect those kinds of statements from Karasu, not from Suoh. Even if Suoh starts making jokes like that, I don't know what I'd do. Still, even if he was joking, that really got my heart racing. For a despicable, heinous person like me, who until recently had forgotten what it was like to feel another human being, to even dream of one day getting married. Well, I guess it can't hurt to dream. 8 days later. Tuesday morning, December the 6th. Faced with all-day training every day for a full week, it didn't take long for my lack of stamina to take its toll. Whether it was due to the seriousness of our upcoming operation, or simply employed to keep Suoh and I too busy to enjoy living together, my father showed no mercy when it came to our training. Every day for the past 8 days, we'd been worked to the bone, left utterly exhausted and barely conscious. We endured both early mornings and late nights, made difficult. I got really thrown off by the we with double E. We endured both early mornings and late nights, made difficult by the exhaustion a good night's rest would usually cure, and skipped far too many meals for our own good. We were both burning out, and at the rate things were going, we were more likely to die from dehydration than gunshot wounds. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. I don't even remember waking up this morning. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was the inside of a bus, and before I knew it, I was groggily changing into my training gear. Was Suoh there? I think Suoh was there. Yeah, that's right. I kept trying to put my glove on my foot until he did it for me. And what? Until he put the glove on your foot? It kind of made it sound that way, even though she probably meant like, he put the glove on properly. But I at least put my shirt and pants on by myself. Didn't I? I pulled the front of my pants downward or forward, immediately eyeing the washing tag. Back to front. Yep, I dressed myself alright. Oh, look. I even remembered to change my underwear last night. Maybe I've showered recently after all. Jeez, where did he go? We weren't gone that long. As I tried to piece together a string of recent events, Suoh looked around the stadium. Although my short-term memories were becoming increasingly difficult to piece together, I had a sneaking suspicion that we were supposed to be looking for my father. Following Suoh's lead, I take a quick look around, trying to spot my father. It's your fault that he's missing, If you'd woken up on time, he wouldn't have run off like this. Suoh attempted to provoke me, but given my current mental state, his words had no effect. Instead, I simply took Suoh's words as confirmation that we were indeed supposed to be meeting with my father. Father wouldn't leave us this long when we're supposed to be training. If he ran off, it must have been for something important, and given where we are, I have a pretty good idea of where he's gone. Where else would he be? There's only one other place he could be, if he is inside this building. To nobody's surprise, my father was actually where I thought he'd be. Standing around Karasu's office, beside Karasu himself, he was watching television, his eyes glued to the news program being shown. I turned my head towards the television too, and the moment I did, I knew why he was so fixated. I am here on the grounds of Middlebrook Research Facility of Adder Technologies, where the research team has finally confirmed that we've all been anticipating for months. Only a few weeks out from Christmas, and now we know that Adder Technologies will be releasing a new product late next week, just in time for the festive season. Hell yeah, who's gonna buy freaking, what is it? It's a pharmaceutical company, right? Who's gonna buy like pharmaceutical drugs and whatnot, medicine? Like, here's your Christmas present. Yeah, I bought you the latest drugs from Adder Technologies. Details are scarce, but The official word from Ada Technologies is that the product will be a mainstream health supplement which has already received national approval for sale. Although less grandiose than their previous wonder drugs, Ada Technologies remain confident that this product's reach, being a supplement rather than a cure, will help to make it a bestseller. I caught up with some members of the development team moments ago, and this is what they... This isn't good. Agreed. I'd anticipated a new product launch, but the timing couldn't be worse. Shortly after my arrival, Karasu and my father turned off the television, then began discussing what they had seen. Though my viewing time was far more brief, I gleamed over the details I needed from the segment and knew exactly what was coming. It seems like Karasu finally is going to get his wish. We're going to have to move up the date after all. He's argued with my father a few times about the exact date of the infiltration, and likely many more times while I wasn't present. Karasu argued that we were better off moving in sooner rather than later, while my father preached patience, worried that we would ruin our chance if we weren't properly prepared. Now, their arguments can finally be put to rest. Karasu was right all along, and prepared or not, we were going to be forced into action. Suoh, Misa, listen up. Spend the day at rest. Grab your gear and be back here 6 p.m. sharp. We're breaking into Adder tonight. I knew it. Early grave, here I come. Not for Misa though. Feeling more pessimistic and depressed than I should have, I returned home with Suoh for what should have been a day of rest. As became evident the moment we arrived, however, rest was the last thing on each of our minds. Tonight, huh? So it's finally happening. Although his tone was lighter than I'd expected, given the circumstances, there was a tinge of resentment in Suoh's voice. Like me, he probably thought our days of daily outings and playing house would last longer, if only for a few more weeks. But with our suddenly over-the-top training, and then this morning's bombshell, our peaceful days had sadly come to an end. Jeez, we're in quite a bind now, huh? This is way too short notice. That's one way to put it. While it's relieving to hear that the wait is finally over, the reality of our situation is now scarier than ever. I put Adder completely out of my mind, as I was focused on trying to have a somewhat normal life. I desperately escaped to the mind frame of an ordinary high school girl, as if doing so would relieve me of my situation. And now, after neglecting my duty and my training, fate has come calling. Alright, enough moping around. Let's get going already. Huh? Breaking the tense atmosphere, Suoh suddenly spoke up, full of his usual cheer. You heard, Sai. We can spend today however we want. It's time to enjoy ourselves. Enjoy ourselves? You must be joking. It's precisely because I spent so much time enjoying myself that I'm woefully unprepared right now. I'm sorry, Misa, but that wasn't a question. We're going out, whether you feel like it or not. Practically dragged from Suoh's house, I forced myself to play along with his plans for the day. We went to the mall, ate lunch, glanced around the cinema, and even swung by the arcade we visited once before. No matter where we went, however, my mood did not improve, nor did my inclination towards spending my time so frivolously. Some outing this turned out to be. My last day on Earth, and we're spending it like any other day, pretending that everything's going to be just fine. It is, eventually. How foolish. I don't even know why I came along. Well, the lake probably would be a bit too far away by this point. But I did manage to locate an indoor pool since our last outing, if you're interested. Despite my obvious unwillingness to go along, Suoh continued to pitch ideas about where we could go next. There was nothing out of the ordinary about this. It wasn't the first time one of us wanted to laze around while the other insisted on going out, but now it's a reversal. Nonetheless, this time around, Suoh's attitude truly angered me. We might die tonight, thanks to our lack of training, and Suoh wants to waste the day messing around, but it's not like you can make up for the lack of training in half a day right before we're about to go on our mission either, right, Misa? So it's like, okay, well, tonight is the night. It got moved up, unfortunately. We had not much of a prior notice. So the only thing you can do is just, if you're already not well prepared, I agree that she could prepare a little bit better in some way, perhaps studying the blueprints. But I'm pretty sure she mentioned in some of the other routes, if not very recently as well, that she knows the blueprints like the back of her hand. So like the theoretical part of it shouldn't be too hard, but it's more the practical part, right? Being agile, being quick, having being really on your toes and just knowing what to do exactly, and just your physical strength, your physical health, that has to be in tip-top shape. And even though it is not, there's not much we can do about it now, so might as well just, even because we had somewhat of a lack of training, the chance of dying is a bit higher than if we hadn't trained, or if we had trained a lot. It is higher tonight, the chance of dying, so we might as well just have fun tonight, and treat it like, alright, well, if we're gonna die, we might as well, have fun on our last day before we die, rather than training our butts off for half a day, be tired for when the mission actually starts as well, and not having gained that much in terms or out of the practice that we did before the actual mission. It's just better to spend it like this, I feel. Resting at home, I could understand. At least that way we could catch up on some much needed sleep before going on the job. But this? Walking around town? Looking for fun? Like we're just out on another date? I won't force you to swim, but you want to at least take a look, right? Or it could be that you do want to swim, and you just don't know how. Take a freaking hint, Suoh. I'm not in the mood to play, and you shouldn't be either. Let's go home, get a few hours of sleep, and let's meet up with my father and run through the plan one last time. Let's look over the blueprints at your place. Let's do something productive, and not waste our time acting like this is just any other day. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. Plenty of people don't know how to swim, especially those living in the city. One day might not be enough, but if you'd like, I could try to teach you how to... Oh! Did I hear that correctly? The second Suoh put his hand on my shoulder, I finally lost it. There I was, right in front of him, worried to death and eaten away by my own nerves, and all he could think about was having fun. It was nothing foreign to me. I understood that I acted the same way when we began working together, seeking to blow off work just to play around. But the fact only angered me all the more. Why must you choose now of all times to act irresponsible? Why must you speak sense to me every step of the way, then turn right around and emulate me at the worst possible moment? People are supposed to strengthen one another when they band together, not adopt each other's weaknesses. So why? Of all the things you could do right now, in the midst of such a crisis, why would you choose to lower yourself to my level? You should know better than anyone how much I hate this kind of foolishness, and now I resent that side of myself. If you start acting like me now, then our final moments will be spent with me hating... I shook my head from side to side, as though trying to free myself from my negative thoughts. Oh, who am I kidding? I don't hate Suoh. I don't resent him, or what he's doing. I understand completely that she's just trying to calm our collective nerves by showing me that our lives haven't suddenly been broken beyond repair. But this time around, Suoh, you're wrong. This is a game changer. This is serious, and this is very real. Tonight, we both really might just die. I'm sorry, Misa. If you don't want to go, I won't try to persuade you anymore. Let's just go home. Sometimes you just think, wouldn't it be so much easier if Misa could talk? A few hours passed by since Suoh and I returned home, and from the moment when Suoh suggested that we head back, not a word was said. True to his promise, Suoh didn't try to persuade me to go out, nor did he pester me for a reason, or otherwise exacerbate the situation. We simply walked in silence, sat in silence, coexisted in silence, like two complete strangers. Shortly after we returned, I tried to get some sleep. I thought that with my mind in disarray, and my mood obviously not improving, a few hours of sleep would do me a world of good. However, no matter how long I sprawled myself out onto our bed, I could not get sleep. When did I start thinking of this as our bed anyway? No, before that. When did I start calling this place home? When did I stop going back to that hotel and start to return here? As though it was the natural thing to do. The moment Sara died. I looked around our bedroom, Suoh's bedroom, and noticed that several of my belongings were present. Inside of the wardrobe, where Sara's school uniforms once resided, were my clothes. The boxes therein, once filled with her shoes, were packed full of my training gear, knives, tasers, and other miscellaneous work-related paraphernalia. Without even thinking about it, I've become a leech, feeding off of Suoh's goodwill and taking what's his. I moved in, replaced his sister, and made this home mine without a second thought. I identified the one thing Suoh had left, and I took it for myself. I rolled over, burying my face in the pillow. I really am hopeless, aren't I? Suoh may be an idiot, and he sometimes presumes too much, but at least he's honest and straightforward. Well, to me at least. Obviously not to his late sister. My mind continued to spiral around Sara's death and my own grave-robbing antics. Though I had seen myself as taking advantage of Suoh before, this was the first time I realized that it was actually Sara who I was stealing from. Come to think of it, I'm responsible for quite a few losses on that front, aren't I? I took Sara's brother, her bed, her wardrobe, her role in this house. I stole away everything except her life. The thing about this is I feel like when it comes to Suoh, she actually thinks very negatively just about everything around it. Or she tends to, when she's a person that, when they say half glass empty or half glass full, she thinks she's a half glass empty kind of girl. She always looks at a situation and immediately starts to think negatively that it's probably that. If you're doubting whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, she immediately starts to go towards the bad things. And here I feel like, yeah, it is kind of true. She took Sara's brother, her bed, her wardrobe, her role in the house. Yeah, that's kind of true, but it's kind of, how are you taking it from someone that isn't even present anymore? If Sara was here, I'm pretty sure Misa wouldn't have taken it from her. But Sara isn't here, and I feel like, with Sara being dead, it obviously leaves a hole in Suoh's life. And that hole is just filled by Misa, who indirectly felt like that hole that she is filling in Suoh's life is indirectly also sort of what she wanted in general out of her life, right? To sort of lead a more normal life than she's been leading all those years as a professional killer. And I think it's just kind of a bird with two stones, or what is it, right? Two birds with one stone. That sounds a lot better. It benefits both of them in a way, and I do agree. I think I mentioned it back then as well when Sara did die, that Suoh at some points needs to kind of grieve Sara's loss. He needs to mourn it. He needs to properly process it and then move on. But because of the busy life and the busy work that he's been doing and the other mission coming up right now, he hasn't had much time for that. And I feel like he's gonna have to do that afterwards. Although we don't really get to see that part, I think. But I feel like just now, Misa is just being there for Suoh. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. She's just helping him get through this tough time. And I don't see that as her leeching off of him, or her taking Sara's spot and all that stuff, I don't look at it that way. You can interpret it that way, and Misa definitely does, but that's like, as I mentioned, that's the glass half empty approach, whereas I'm kind of more the glass half full, I guess. But I feel like I don't know what it's like, obviously, to be a mute, being unable to talk, but I can just imagine just kind of being, unable to express most of your thoughts, so people are having a hard time understanding you because obviously you can't express your thoughts with words, so that's a problem already. And then just being stuck with your own thoughts for so long, and basically for a whole life, I feel like she's just become so good at almost driving herself crazy and making herself always think the negative stuff, that's just how she's become because of her inability to talk. Or she might just be that as a person, even if she would able to talk or not, but I don't know, I feel like she needs to, she shouldn't look at it that way, but that's easier said than done. Whoever took that away, kudos to you. You're probably the only person she's more likely to curse than me. Hoping to free myself from thoughts of Suoh's dead sister, I left the bedroom and joined Suoh in the living room. I sat down next to him on the couch, greeted only by an awkward glance, as though he was afraid to speak to me. We sat beside one another in silence for a while, without actually saying or doing anything. We kept a small gap between us, despite the small size of the couch, and stared straight ahead. After half an hour or so, I succumbed to the awkward silence and turned the television on. And you say the cost to consumers will actually be lower than... Nope, don't want to watch that. Great. I guess TV is off the table too, yeah, because they only have that one channel. Maybe that's for the best. Television is too distracting, and I can't afford to get caught up watching something. Television is too distracting? What are we, 5 years old? Or do we need to do our homework or something? That's really parents talk, Don't watch TV too long, it's gonna melt your brain. It's gonna give you bad eyesight. Don't sit so close to the TV. You have to do your homework, stop watching TV. Not that daytime television is any good anyway. If anything, it's more likely to put me to sleep, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Finally moving from the couch, Suoh stood up. He headed out into the hallway, then walked towards his bedroom, where I had been until half an hour ago. Troubled minds think alike, huh? I hope you have better luck falling asleep than I did. Left on my own, silence filled the room once more. With Suoh present, there was at least the ambient sound of his breathing and the company he offered by just being there. But once he left the room, I was, as I had so frequently been in the past, all alone. Alone again, huh? Perhaps I'm just meant to be alone. I do seem to always return to this state. At least now, I won't have to worry so much. After all, I know better than anyone how simple things are when you're all alone. There are no disagreements about chores. There's no nagging to wake up or eat properly. No waiting to use the shower. It really is more straightforward to be alone. Other people only add unnecessary complexity and drama to what could otherwise be an enjoyable lifestyle. With Suoh around, I'm always waking him up in the morning, cooking for two, reminding him about the grocery shopping, finding the toilet seat up. Really, without me here, he'd be... My eyes opened wide as my thoughts wandered into unfamiliar territory. I stopped pouting and sat up straight, trying hard not to lose my train of thought. Without me, he'd be... alone too. Yes, Misa, good. She's starting to realize he'd be doing these things all by himself, struggling to fill the role of his sister, the role I filled for him. He'd be in the same situation I'm in now. I could feel my eyes widen as I came to an obvious yet overlooked realization. I've been beating myself up for being opportunistic and stealing Sarah's place in this house. But even if I hadn't, the void she left would eventually need to be filled. Suoh wouldn't just leave her belongings lying around forever. He'd throw them out and use the space himself. He'd be forced to cook and clean for himself, picking up whatever jobs his sister used to take care of. He'd do the exact same thing that I've been doing, and nobody could fault him for it. A smile crept onto my face as I quickly changed my outlook of the current situation. Where I had once considered myself a leech, I now choose to see myself as a natural progression, a warranted, longed for, welcome addition to the household. I was not an invader or an interloper. I was not an opportunistic guest who had overstayed her welcome. I was the saving grace, the silver lining, the shining beacon in the wake of a tragedy, and in return, Suoh was the stability, kind, and warmth that I needed. See? They're both filling each other's holes. That sounds dirtier than I meant it to be, but you know what I mean. But it's kind of funny how Misa went from like, I'm a leech, I am an opportunist, I'm stealing her place, I'm taking everything away from Sara, and now she's like, oh, I'm the saving grace, I am the shining beacon. Like, holy crap, she just like, the entire turnaround in such a short amount of time is actually kind of funny. But I do agree with her in this sense. We had unknowingly formed a symbiotic relationship, feeding off one another, yet making the other stronger. We had become partners, closer than I ever realized. Partners? Huh? It feels kind of strange to call us that now, but for the time being, I'm just glad to remove that nagging feeling from the back of my mind. I've been worrying needlessly about this garbage since the moment I moved in here. Even if I've had other things on my mind, it's still been driving me nuts. But that's over now, and all that's left is... My expression dampened as I instantly realized how little my revelation truly meant. Even if I was welcome in this house, it was only a small consolation, considering I might never return. Oh no, she's going back into the deep end again. Don't go to the dark side, Misa. You were just on the good side. Stay there, at least a little while longer. As my melancholy returned, I felt a gaze from out in the hallway. I turned my head, and surely enough, there was Suoh, staring directly at me. Misa, I have a question. Oh yeah, we know what's coming. Unlike before, Suoh spoke in an unwavering, serious tone. Like me, he had been doing some serious thinking, and he too had reached an important conclusion. I didn't dare to hope that it would complement mine, or that it would put my mind at ease about Adder. Even so, I intended to listen closely and pay him the courtesy of keeping an open mind. When all of this is over, when we've robbed Adder and become wealthy, infamous criminals, what will you do? I stared at Suoh in confusion as I tried to make sense of his words. As someone who had already concluded that the mission would be a failure, the thought of what to do after succeeding had never even crossed my mind. She's just such a negative Nancy. I was certain that we would fail, thanks primarily to my frivolous lifestyle as of late, and Suoh's positive outlook hadn't changed that. What do I want to do when this is all over? Well, I suppose it would be nice to be buried back in Japan, beside my mother. Come on, Misa, that's not what he meant. But she was cremated, wasn't she? That complicates matters. But once I'm dead, I won't care anyway. Just feed my corpse to wild animals for all I care. Suoh sighed and rubbed the back of his head as he failed to get a response out of me. Either he had expected me to suddenly regain my ability to talk properly, or I was misunderstanding his question. Oh? This sentence, suddenly regain, meaning that she had lost it. Regain means that you would gain something that you had previously lost. Meaning at some point, Misa was able to talk, she then lost her ability to talk for some reason. Right? I'm pretty sure that's what regain means, right? So, that makes it sound like at some point in her life, she was able to talk, and then she lost the ability to talk, and that's still the case right now. But then again, we still don't know why. But we're learning more and more. Misa, what I'm trying to ask is, will you keep living with me? Will I? What? He wants living with, asking. Huh? I tried to keep my composure as my mind began to race. A sudden, unexpected, unbelievably important question had just been asked of me, and I could only stare blankly, unable to accept that I had heard Suoh correctly. It's fine if you don't. I won't hold it against you if you want to go back to your old lifestyle. But my old house is pretty big, you know. It'll be lonely to move back in there all by myself. And as far as roommates go, I can't think of anybody else I'd rather live with. Completely blown away by Suoh's heartfelt offer, I could feel my eyes begin to water and my throat contract. Mere minutes ago, I was convinced that I was a leech, stealing away everything that Suoh held dear. I was a benefactor of Sara's death, a soulless monster taking advantage of Suoh's loss in order to take over his life. And now I was being invited to live with him indefinitely. I was not forcing my way in. I was not pushing myself on him, and I was not trying to secure a place somewhere I did not belong. My presence was wanted. I was wanted. For the first time in my life, I was chosen by another human being, someone who knew who and what I was and cared for me all the same. For the first time in so many years, I knew what it meant to feel loved. I tried to speak Suoh's name, pushing past the pain in my throat and the tears in her eyes. Is she unable to speak because of something with her throat? Through sheer force of will, I managed to squeeze out a single syllable, the closest I had come to speaking a real word in a full decade. Yes, definitely. A full decade, wow. So she's lost her ability to talk like 10 years. Wow. And it seems like it's something with her throat, because she said it was painful. Not a grunt, not a cough, not a squeal, not a sigh. An actual word. A name. The name of the person before me, who made me wish harder than ever before that I was still able to speak. Suoh, please, just one simple word. One word, that's all I ask. For once, please, just let me say his name. I pushed myself harder than ever before, desperate to say that single word. A simple, two-syllable word. If I could do that much, I would be happy. But no matter how hard I tried, nothing changed. All I summoned forth were more tears. Don't strain yourself, Misa. You don't need to give an in-depth answer. Just nod or shake your head like usual, okay? I lowered my shoulders and rested my throat. No matter how badly I wanted to say that one single word, I couldn't do it. After 10 years without saying a word, it was unreasonable for me to demand so much from my body. In the 10 years since I lost my voice, never have I wanted to speak more badly than I do now. One word. All I wanted was a single damn word. But even if that's too much, I won't let it stop me. I've made it this far without speech, and I'm not about to give up now. I swallowed my saliva, then took a deep breath. I straightened my shoulders, looked Suoh dead in the eye, and finally, I gave my answer. It's not the delivery I'd wanted, but as long as my answer came across clearly, that's good enough for me. I smiled at Suoh with tears in my eyes, trying my best to remain calm. Suoh, on the other hand, looked both surprised and confused, as though he had expected a different answer. Misa, just to be clear, was that a nod to confirm that you understand? Or are you saying you want to live with me? Double nods, now that means yes to both. It's both, you idiot! Smiling like the idiot I claimed Suoh to be, I wiped my eyes and took a deep breath. I could only imagine how I looked at that moment, my face blushing, filled with tears, yet adorned with an unmistakable smile. No matter how I looked on the outside, however, within my heart, I knew that I had never been happier. There must be something seriously wrong with me. Honestly, we have a life or death mission coming up in a few hours, and I'm asking my girlfriend to move in with me. My priorities are totally messed up, aren't they? No. If your priorities are messed up, then so are mine. That's another reason for them that they fit well together, you know? But I feel like, I don't think it's that much of a messed up priority. Cause, you know, this might them sort of making this promise to move in together afterwards, you know? It's both motivation to perhaps, you know, to do well in the mission, extra motivation at least, and it's something to look forward to after that, you know? Something, and I think I mentioned it back then as well when like Suoh was dying. It's just like something to sort of hold on to when it's the darkest moment of your life, or if you're somehow just, you know, a large part about if you're in a life or death situation, or if you, for example, Suoh was like he got, you know, stabbed in the chest multiple times, I believe, or was it the throat? I don't quite remember, but he was definitely stabbed. But you know, during those tough situations when you're like near death, something like that might be able to just make you pull through, because a lot of it, I think, I'm assuming in this instance, right, because I've never been near death ever, I think, or at least not in the same situation where I was actually conscious, you know, like fighting, like I gotta keep going on, you know, but just that motivation to have something to look forward to, and just to want that, to not die for that reason, it's something that could, you know, make him survive. So it's good that I made this promise, I believe. I'm supposed to be resting for a big mission. I should be thinking about Adder and making sure I have everything I need. Now all I'm thinking about is what we're going to do afterwards. Suoh, I honestly don't know if you're an idiot or a genius. Why not both? All this time you've been trying to get me to stop thinking that failure was a given and to look forward to life after this job. Yet you yourself probably never even realized it. Suoh, if we make it out of this alive, and if I haven't already done so, then I might fall in love with you after all. Ooh. Alright, you two, listen up. Once we leave, we won't be turning back, so this is your last chance to eat, hydrate, go to the bathroom, or grab anything you need. Double check that you both have everything necessary, and take care of anything that might hinder you. Understood? Suoh and I quickly checked our equipment yet again, as per my father's command. There was very little to check, given that my father was responsible for the bulk of our supplies, and even the bulk of the mission. Nonetheless, we humored him, if only to get things rolling. I'm set. Good. Then I'll go through the basics of our entrance and your overall mission. I've already covered the finer points of our plan with Misa, so if you lose your way after we separate, don't fret. My father began to explain to Suoh the loose details of the infiltration, ranging from our entry to our plans once we entered Adder's research facility. His explanation was fairly concise, given the amount of planning that had gone into all of this. Thankfully, the hard work had already been done in advance, and my father's role was the most important by far, so our jobs were actually rather simple. Then what were you so worried about? For Suoh and I, the entirety of our mission could be summed up in one sentence: grab as much data as you can in 15 minutes. Simple though it may be, there are too many potential points of failure for me to relax just yet. Senator Bell, whose daughter we saved, could betray us. The transport vehicle might undergo a surprise inspection, either entering or leaving, and expose the 3 hidden passengers. The jamming devices cooked up by Karasu's tech team could fail, resulting in our imminent capture. We might be spotted by a staff member working late, now that the operation has been moved to a weekday, and wind up being liable for murder or caught trying to leave. My father, who's responsible for going far deeper into the facility, might be caught behind a new security measure we're unaware of and delayed until long after the 15 minutes are up. Our ex-coworkers might leak our plans to Adder, and the moment we try to use Senator Bell's connections, we'll be exposed. There are just so many things that could potentially go wrong. I can't even begin to imagine that this will all go smoothly. Misa, over here. Called while deep in thought, I glanced around, trying to regain a sense of what was going on. Karasu was speaking to Suoh, and no doubt giving him a long-winded speech, and my father was now ushering me away from the two of them. Even when we're about to jump into action, that man just can't help himself. Oh well, in this case, his talkative nature should give us a chance to talk alone one more time before heading out. Wearing a smile unbefitting the current situation, my father's words made me question what was on his mind. While it was true that we hadn't conversed much lately, just one-on-one, I couldn't think of anything that we needed to discuss. Misa, there are a lot of things I'd like to tell you right now. This sudden change of plans has put all of us off our game, and you can't even begin to imagine the kind of stuff I'd like to get off my chest. But telling you now would only distract you from the mission ahead, and once we begin, distraction and hesitation will become luxuries you cannot afford. So, let me keep this brief, and straight to the point. If I don't make it back within 10 minutes after the operation begins, I want you to leave without me. Huh? You... what? Don't make that face. It can't be that much of a shock to you. This is just that kind of business after all. The hell it is! Misa, I'm thankful that you don't want to leave me behind. And believe me, I hope it doesn't come to that. But if I do fail, the last thing I want is for all three of us to get caught as a result. As readily as I rejected the idea of leaving my father behind, I couldn't say I was surprised by his plea. My father had always been the kind to go for broad, sweeping gestures, rather than putting the work on a day-to-day basis. He'd rather go out in a sea of flames, boldly proclaiming that he was doing it all for my sake, than actually put in the effort to visit me each day or to try and understand what I really wanted. I may not like it, but I understand better than anyone how my father is. When he sets his mind on something, that's it. There's just no talking to him. What I want doesn't matter. All that counts is what he wants. And while he usually wants, or say he wants, what's best for me, ultimately, that just means he's already convinced himself that he knows what I'm thinking. My father is a very selfish man. He always has been, and until the day of his untimely self-sacrifice, he always will be. Anyway, that's all from me. I don't want to muddle your head this close to the operation. Make sure to keep a level head about you. Act like a professional, right until the end. On that note, my father returned to Suoh's side, ready to free him from Karasu's verbal assault. Like a professional, huh? I followed after my father, completing our group of 4 before the final send-off. If being a professional means being prepared to sacrifice your own family, the way my father has twice already, then maybe I'm not cut out for this after all.